I had a look at my viewers' most highly requested search topics, right? Apparently, you can do that when you're a YouTuber, is that you can just click on a tab and see what like the people who watch your channel are like mostly talking about. And at the very top of that list is Pikmin 4 for me. So it's one of those things where I've beaten the game a couple of weeks ago. I have no interest in coming back to it. Like there's nothing really notice like no reason to come back to it. There's a handful of things I could do, but I did beat the game. I did beat the final boss. I completely like experienced like 99% of it. Like I legit think I have to beat like what, maybe one more cave before I have everything in the game. It was um it was a disappointment, right? Like I've always been upfront about this. You know, even when I was streaming the game, I was just like, yeah, this wasn't as good as I was expecting it to be. I was thinking this was going to be like the second best game of the year. Like I was optimistic this could be better than Tears of the Kingdom. Like I thought we might actually see a game that would like surpass Zelda from Nintendo this year. I thought they could do it. I thought it had them in them, but I thought they had it in them. But instead, we got something that felt rather similar to how I felt about Mario Odyssey, right? Where you have these really cool mechanics, you have all these great ideas, in this great game that is just held back by like terrible padding decisions and just casualizing everything for like the mass market, right? Because there's no denying that the mechanics for Pikmin 4 are just spectacular. Like, you have the dog, you have the Pikmin, you have like, having multiple bases in an area, you have like the treasure hunting, you have like great gameplay mechanics. Like, it is a lot of fun, right? There is no denying that. But like, when you start peeling back the nitty gritty of the game, when you realize such things as like, oh, enemies don't respond in the overworld, or uh, this kind of Pikmin is overpowered, or like Ochi can do this, like casualizes so much stuff. Then the bosses are straightforward that you can like warp down to like any floor, if you leave, right? Like when you look at it like from an objective standpoint, like everything about when you realize how few Pikmin actually die, right? When you look at like the game objectively, when you look at like everything in like its entirety, you come away with this very, very extremely underwhelming experience where like it feels like the team felt that these games were too hard and that they had to make them like simplify them for casual players. And I feel like Pikmin and its core should not be considered like one of those franchises that's easily accessible because the thing I like about these games, is how brutal they can be. Like, right, like when you're playing Pikmin and you suddenly start seeing like dozens of Pikmin die at once, when they're on the way back and they get caught in like spider webs or something, or they end up like waking something up and getting killed, or like a treasure isn't moving like it's supposed to be. Like when you notice like things like that and you gotta correct it, like you really get this sense of like risk versus reward, especially in the first game. You really get this sense that there's a lot going on. The environment feels like it's lived in. There's all these really weird things that can happen if you like do things. You have to like do everything you possibly can to like manage your Pikmin. And for Pikmin 1 and 3, it is a magical experience. Like the levels are well designed, it's challenging, the enemies are great, like getting everything in the game is a real challenge, like it feels satisfying to do. In Pikmin 4, none of that's true. Like they casualized everything. The most difficulty I found in the game was like getting the onions to breed the Pikmin that I needed. Particularly blues, but like there was this there was like long stretches of time where like I just could not use certain Pikmin types because I did not have them readily available. Like they do this weird thing where like for a long stretch of time you're expected to just kind of just find Pikmin in like the wild underground. So like you're discouraged from using winged Pikmin. You're discouraged from using like rocks. You're discouraged from like doing all sorts of things. And like it it really limits like what you're willing to do like in the game itself. Like I found myself like just sticking with the Pikmin that I knew would like survive, the recommended Pikmin. Like there was no strategy, there was no experimentation, there was no like creativity on my part. And as a result of that, like I feel like this game is so streamlined that it would not be enjoyable on a repeat playthrough, right? I've played Pikmin 3 twice, since it came out. I played Pikmin 1 like 7 times, like in the past couple of months, right? Like it's crazy how much I played that game since it was re-released. Like these games like should be replayable. They should have a lot of things going on. They should have like things that keep you invested. They should have things that keep you on your toes. There should be like a real challenge. There should be a real sense of like this game is not straightforward. Like it takes a lot of thinking. It takes a lot of skill. It takes a lot of understanding how the game works. And I got none of that with Pikmin 4. Quite the opposite. The defense missions were basic. They were uninspired. Like we got like the bosses, which were cool, creative, like interesting, but like very very simple to beat. Right? You had these all these ideas that seem like they're going to be grand new bold directions for the series, but in the end it feels like they completely missed the mark of like what the series is actually supposed to be about, right? Like it's a lot like Mario Odyssey, where like you have this setup where like you're supposed to like go around like collecting power moons, but like the game encourages you to like just play through the stage almost like it's a 2D Mario stage in this very linear fashion in order to like clear it and like fix the problem in the kingdom. And it just doesn't feel organic. It just feels like you're just going through the motions and like you want to like stop and like take in the sights and like enjoy the kingdoms and like play at your own pace and like collect the power moons. But no, the game pressures you into saving Peach immediately. And then you get into the post game and you realize just how many like useless moons there actually are and just how much you're not having fun with a whole lot of it, right? Like Odyssey is, I think, a really good example of how Nintendo isn't necessarily getting better with all of their games. And I've always maintained that. There's a handful of other examples I would point to. Yoshi's Crafted World is a good example. Kirby, Star Allies, yeah, and this like Pikmin 4, I think can join those titles as being a rather underwhelming new entry in a Nintendo franchise. And I'm not saying these games are necessarily bad, but when you're putting them up against like Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom, like some of the best games ever made, right? Like the difference in quality is very staggering if you're critical enough to acknowledge this stuff. And I know I'm typically known as like the person that's like really critical and then really really passionate about like loving every game Nintendo puts out, but like the thing is, like I think I think what ends up happening whenever like these mediocre Nintendo games come out is that like a lot of them just get buried under like all the good stuff that Nintendo does. Yoshi's Crafted World came out like what, 2019 or something. Like, when it came out that year, like all sorts of crazy stuff, right? Insane games came out in 2019. I think that's around the time that like the Switch was really starting to pick up steam with like its third party support and stuff like that. Like 2019 was amazing, right? Yoshi's Crafted World just didn't I finished it and like, playing it, it wasn't that bad. But like looking back on it, playing it again, it kind of dawned on me just how unremarkable that game actually was compared to Woolly World, which I genuinely really like. There are all these bad mediocre Nintendo games that exist, but typically what happens is I like make one video once talking about how it's not great and then kind of move on with my life. Like I don't obsess over it. I don't like rant and rave about how Nintendo let the fans down. Like just like how I'm not really ranting about Pikmin 4. Like the game isn't bad. I'm just disappointed, and I'm expressing that disappointment to you guys. I'm trying to be genuine here. I'm trying to like tell you guys that like Pikmin 4 is not nearly the caliber of game that a lot of other YouTubers are referring to it as, right? Like this game has a lot of problems, and I don't really necessarily see a lot of people talk about that. And I think in a lot of ways, I think that's a big reason why I need to talk about this kind of stuff more. I need to address this more. I think Pikmin 4 is a title that I, as a creator, want to like use going forward as like an example of a game that is getting a lot of credit by fans for the wrong reasons, right? Like all anybody seems to want to talk about is like, oh man, this is the first real Pikmin game we've gotten in a decade, without really stopping to consider that like maybe this game is a step down from what we got before. Like maybe Pikmin really needed to rethink what it was, and maybe some of the decisions they made with Pikmin 4 weren't all that great. Like I think we needed to have like a real conversation about that, right? Like a real debate, and I don't really see it like in the community. Like I know my audience is typically like very very supportive of my opinion, but like when it comes to YouTubers in general, like it really feels like most people are just supporting Pikmin 4 in general without really stopping to consider that like some of us don't really like the game all that much at all.